Alright, today I'm going to show you how to seal off these vents like I do on my cups. You might have seen pictures of them. And close this off nicely so you can paint over the whole thing and you can't tell that this was there. Or this. This is a stock cup and I had pushed the stock vent through. I always break those through. I generally just take like a handle of these wire cutters and I'll like push them through, peel the pieces out, and that's that. It makes it a lot easier to do it this way because then you don't have to make sure everything between the grooves is perfect. You just fill this whole area and smoothen it from here to here and then from here to here. So I'm going to show you that. Okay, first of all, you need to sand off this lock. It says lock. This is for the stock cable. You need to sand that totally flat. I've already broken the inside, and it just makes the inside easier to get to when I'm filling it later. So sand off the outside. It's got to be totally flat. A lot of people will just sand it so they think it's flat, but you can still see lock. If you can see the word lock at all, it is still taller or higher than the rest of the cup, and it will show through paint, and it'll just be a pain in your ass to cover up later. So make sure it is totally flat. I'm using some fairly high grit stuff here. Like, okay, see, a lot of people might stop at this point, but you can still kind of see in the K right there. Keep sanding. You've got a lot of plastic below this, so it's nothing you need to worry about. You can still faintly see it. I'm just going to go against the direction I was going a moment ago with the sandpaper. Okay. Good enough, I think. Can't see lock at all. No remnants whatsoever. So then, you're going to want to do the whole cup anyway, but I'm going to use a higher grit sandpaper on this, just so you can't see any of these current lines that I made while using the more coarse sandpaper. I say you're gonna have to do the whole cup anyway. What I mean is, before you paint or use any kind of primer or anything, you should always scuff the surface so that the paint has something to grab onto, because a smooth surface, it's not porous, you know, it's just totally flat. If you just paint over that, it has a much higher chance of chipping. The paint kind of leaving the leaving the plastic. Better off just scuffing it up. You don't have to do anything crazy. Anyway, all right, I'll go on to the next step. Okay, next step. Get the sandpaper out of the way. Crap. All right, you're gonna need to get yourself like a small piece of, this is freezer paper. It's a non-stick type of surface. Freezer paper or wax paper. And you're going to want to take a little piece of it, you know, place it over the area you're going to be covering. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller than that, actually, just so I can, so it doesn't look so freaking sloppy. Okay. That is going to keep the epoxy we're going to use to fill the hole from sticking, and it will end up being a somewhat smooth surface on the outside, and you won't have to do as much sanding to make your life a whole lot easier. I know a lot of people are probably thinking, wow, why are you using epoxy instead of something like Bondo? I used to use Bondo. Bondo, it is meant for paint, but it will soak up your paint. It'll make it so that your finish after you've painted looks just terrible. You have to put coat after coat after coat of primer just until the Bondo stops soaking it up and it ends up laying smooth. It is a pain in the ass. You wouldn't expect that type of thing from something that's meant for paint, but I'm telling you, this is going to be much easier. So then take the tape, put it over the top so it's holding that all down nice and flat. Nothing's moving. Nothing's going to stick to it, and it's not going to be taller or lower than this flat surface right here. I just use a small piece of plastic here. It just a little thin piece of plastic from like not really sure, container. I don't know. It's been in my drawer for a while. Anyway, so now you're left with this on the inside. You're gonna want another piece of plastic. I think it's gonna be, this one's gonna be a little bit too big, so I'm gonna cut it down a little bit. Let's see if that'll fit. This is for support after you have the epoxy in there. You don't want just like a layer of epoxy and nothing behind it or in front of it. It's strong stuff, but you don't want it to indent over time. Now I'll move on to the okay, now I'm using JB Quick. It's 2-part epoxy, and it dries fairly well. It says it's safe to handle after I think 6 minutes, it says, and totally hardened after 30 minutes, which is great, especially if you don't have a ton of patience like I sometimes don't. So half and half, the hardener and the other half. Find something to mix it with. I'm just going to use this plastic spudger here. I mixed up way more than I needed, but that's okay. I've got a bunch of packs of this stuff because I use it all the time. And mix it up really well until it's one even color. It's all the same color. Then you're just going to want to fill that hole, and you're going to want to put a little more than filling the hole, so it's kind of overflowing a little bit, because you're going to lay that other piece of plastic, the extra piece of plastic. Where did I put it? That's terrible. Looks like we're cutting another piece. This is live footage. No. Okay. Trial and error. No. Okay. Alright. Piece of plastic to fit in the corner. And I'm sorry, I'm not really looking at what you're seeing, I'm just kind of doing it. You're going to want to push it into there, so then you're pushing the epoxy to the front of the cup too, kind of making sure that it's going to fill that hole space perfectly. Okay. Well, it's not a work of art on the inside. It's going to be secure, and it's going to make the outside look great. So I will show you the results on the outside after it's totally hardened. Okay, I think it's about that time. So on the outside, we're going to leave that piece of plastic in there, right there. We're going to leave it. On the outside, remove the tape. Plastic came off with it. And then wax paper, and as you can see, I don't know if you can see that. Great. Anyway, it's a very nice flat hole, filled hole rather. Okay, sand it down a little bit just to make sure, you know, that it is totally flat. And the reason we're using the epoxy is it will not absorb paint at all. These are going to be painted later on, the whole cup. I'm just going to show you this part. The same applies to this. This is a little bit different because there is no hole on the back side. Basically, you're going to want to cut a piece of plastic like I put on the outside of this. That's exactly this width in the channel there. Exactly this width. And then you're going to get wax paper that is bigger than that piece of plastic. Get your epoxy ready. Fill in this as much as you can. Use an excess of what you need so it's overflowing. Then take that wax paper, put it on the top, and you're going to want to put the plastic in at like this sort of an angle, like this, touching here first. Just kind of lay it down like this so that all of the excess is pushed out this way, and then you can just clean up this part later. You'll have to probably cut off the epoxy that's hanging over the side, which is really easy to do with like a razor blade, but it will fill in all these channels and that hole there if you do it properly. That's a little bit more annoying to deal with than this or this. To do this, you do the same exact thing as you did right here, but just on a larger scale. Cut the same piece of plastic, the same width, fill that. So you put the wax paper down and then the plastic covering this and this, so you know that the area in here is going to be totally flat. And then you fill it in, cut another piece of plastic on the inside, put it on, wait for it to dry. You know, it's exactly the same as this, just bigger. So hopefully that helps somebody out. I know a lot of people like to fill in that hole and put mini XLRs on these, which is it's going to be done to these later. If you're going to do that, don't do it to the same side this is on, because that piece of plastic is going to become a problem when you're drilling your hole here. You need every bit of space. If you've ever done it, you know you need every bit of space in this corner. So use this corner, or sometimes you can even do it upside down if you fill in, like if you're planning on filling in everything, do it upside down. It doesn't make a difference. I'm going to fill in everything here, and I'll probably end up doing it upside down, and I drill base ports on the top here. Anyway, hope you learned something. Hope that helps. Okay, bye.